People in the sound booth today, and they're all under the age of 17. Isn't that incredible? What an incredible blessing. Thank you guys. Ethan, Veda, Michaela, y'all do an amazing job. I'm so thankful. If we didn't have you, guess what? We would be dead in the water today. We would all be old school, and there's nothing wrong with old school, but we would all be old school. And so you all are an amazing future for what we're building at this church. And I'm so appreciative. So, good morning, everybody. Good to see everybody here. Everybody say amen. 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 It's a beautiful day to be in the house of God. Amen. Amen. Very good. So, I know for a fact we have about 15 people gone on a quick vacation. It's like, go to 2 days of school, we got to get away, and I get that. I totally feel that too. So I'm so appreciative that you guys are here. We're starting a new school year, and I'm so blessed, not just because my little daughter started school for the first time as a kindergartner, but I look around, there are so many great teachers, some of which are in this church, that do such an amazing job to love on our kids, protect our kids, bless our kids every day. And so I know that I speak for many whenever I say thank you all that are incredible, incredible teachers. So what a blessing it is to have you all here today. We're going to do something a little bit different today, okay? Now, last week, we kind of, first of all, for any visitors that we might have here with us, might have a couple here with us, this is a beautiful little church family, and we've got a beautiful little church building, but we've understood that we are the church, right? The church is not just a building, we are the church. And so last week, we finished up this sermon series that was kind of taking us all through the summer months, the vacation months. We finished up a summer playlist. And I had a whole bunch of people come up and tell me we loved that sermon series. It was a lot of fun. We learned a whole lot about the book of Psalms, and that was the intention, was to get you all diving into the book of Psalms and really help you to understand what these authors were writing about. And so today, instead of jumping into a new sermon series, I wanted to take a week, and I just wanted to do something a little different, okay? Now, whenever I say different, some of y'all instantly go, what's he going to make us do? Because I've been there before too. I'm like, oh my gosh, different. I'm scared of different. I'm a creature of comfort. I like things to be the same. And so today we're doing something a little bit different, and it's called Re-Engage Sunday. So everybody say re-engage. Re-engage. Today is all about Re-Engage Sunday. And, I was thinking about this week. How many of us remember an old hymn called Onward Christian Soldiers? Raise your hand if you remember this song. Okay. Onward Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before, right? Hell's foundations quiver at the shout of praise. Christians, lift your voices, loud your anthems raise. It's a really, really beautiful old hymn. That was actually written as a children's song for somebody that was needing to march a bunch of kids to a youth rally. He wanted to come up with a catchy song. It was a youth leader, a youth minister, and so he came up and he wrote that song, and he taught that song to all the kids so that whenever they're walking to this big youth rally, they can sing, "Onward Christian soldiers, marching as to war." And so I want to ask you a question. I was thinking about this week. When you think of that song, for those of you who know that hymn, when you picture that song in your mind, do you just picture an army of one person? No. You don't usually just picture just the leaders of an army. You don't picture it just one person. You picture it as an entire force of people. Onward Christian soldiers, plural, lots of people. You should get this imagery as a fighting force. And do you realize that this fighting force is right here? This family is actually a fighting force. And so I was thinking about this week, and I'm saying, you know what? I wonder how many of our church family members would say, I don't feel like part of the Lord's army. I don't feel, our little children come up here and they sing, "I'm in the Lord's army, yes, sir." And it's a great song, right? I love that. It's a great way to teach our kids about being in the Lord's army. And our kids have done that. We even did it at camp with our adults, didn't we? Didn't we, Sonny? Where is Sonny? Didn't we, Sonny? Yeah, Sonny got singled out on that one a little bit in front of everybody at camp. That was a fantastic time, too, let me tell you. It was great. Thank you for playing along, Sonny. However, whenever I think of that, we are building a family that is supposed to be a fighting force for God. And part of that is serving together in this family as this fighting force. And so I wanted us to think about, if you are a part of this church family, or if you're kind of in and out of this church family and just visiting and things like that, I wanted to ask you the question, start out today with kind of this understanding of, do you feel like you're part of the Lord's army? Do you feel like you're part of a family who is called to advance the cause for Christ? Do you feel like that? Now, see, we all know the things that are happening around the globe today, don't we? In places like Afghanistan, right? There was a really humbling post on Facebook this week that said, Afghan Christians will die this week because they've chosen faithfulness over safety. Afghan Christians are doing exactly what the disciples did 2,000 years ago, when instead of running from pure evil, they are standing and saying, I'm in the Lord's army. Now see, that Facebook post was real humbling, because it didn't just start there with, Afghan Christians will die this week because they've chosen faithfulness over safety. There's a comma there. And it goes on and it says, Christians all across America will skip church this week because they choose safety over faithfulness. Now, does that put it in perspective for you? See, sometimes our faith can be really, really shallow on the surface. And so people across the globe right now are standing with their feet to the fire, ready to meet their Savior because of pure evil that comes against them, and they say, I'm in the Lord's army. I belong to Jesus. Now see, we are a country built on love of Christ. Our founding fathers did that. We have to be ready to remember those types of things. And so as a church family today, I thought, let's take a little bit of time to step away from the fun of summer playlist, and let's jump into re-engage, because re-engaging your faith is something that's incredibly important. Whenever we get away on summer break, sometimes we get to go, we get to have a lot of good time, we get to do a lot of wonderful things, and then sometimes we understand that we might even start to drift a little bit. Okay, everybody say drift. Everybody, sometimes we start to drift a little bit, and we drift, and sometimes we drift for weeks, and then sometimes we drift for, turns into months, and then sometimes people drift so long that they drift for years and don't step back and re-engage their faith. Now, what I was thinking about this week was a year ago, a little over a year ago, year and a half ago, I started here as the full-time pastor on February 1st, 2020, and that day we actually had a really great strategic planning meeting back there in the Family Center. And there was about 35 people there. And if you talk to any of our guys that take attendance, we've been running anywhere between 82 and 92 the last few weeks, and really God is really continuing to kind of double and bless our church family, and I love that. But there was about 35 people that met for kind of this strategic planning meeting the first day I took over as kind of the pastor of this body of believers. And we talked about that day about how can we be more effective as a church family? How can we be more effective at the greatest commandments of Jesus, which is love God and love others? How can we be more effective at that? Because for a long time, it felt like, whenever I first started coming to this church, there may be 12, 13 people here, right? And I don't feel like a church always is meant to stay 12 or 13 people. If a church is effective, God will move in that church and will grow that church and will move in its people to be more effective for each other. And so I look up and I'm thinking, what if a year ago Miss Rita would have been gone, the normal people who run the sound booth would have been gone, everything would be completely dead in the water, right? But we have people that step up, that learn, that understand, that are able to step in and serve. They are engaging their faith to do some extra things, which is awesome. And so I want to talk about that today. So we're talking about, everybody say re-engage again. Re-engage again. Here we go. Go forward there, buddy. So we're not just called to go to church, are we? We're called to be the church, right? And so all across the world, you have people today that could even meet their maker because they have chosen to not just go to church. They have chosen to be the church. And that is a very real difference. And so we are called to be the church, not just go to church. And now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been at a restaurant? Have you ever been in a store, a department store, or you ever gone up to somebody who is an employee of somewhere, wherever you're at, and you ask them a question, and they say, not my job? You ever had somebody say that? How disheartening is that? That's pretty disheartening, isn't it? You walk up to somebody and you say, hey, can you help me do this? Not my job. Just walk away. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess this business ain't going to get my money. See you later, And we get huffed and puffed about that. Well, and so I was thinking about that this week with the church. What if somebody came in and needed something in our church? And what if every one of us in here said, not my job? That'd be pretty sorry, wouldn't it? Would that make anybody want to come to this church ever? No, not at all. Because in that mentality where sometimes people have gotten stuck before and say, I can't do that, not my job. Sometimes in those moments, what we're really saying is, I just go to church. I am not the church myself, which is exactly counter what the Bible tells us to be. So we're called to be the church. Go forward one more there, sir. And so today I wanted us to think about that for Re-Engage Sunday. And so one thing we're going to do is I wanted you all to say this with me here. Everybody say, we are called to serve. We actually are called to serve. Go forward one more there, sir. And the beautiful part about this is Jesus came to this earth to save us from our sins. Amen? We needed a Savior. We couldn't save ourselves. We couldn't fix ourselves. And Jesus came to do that for us, didn't He? So we are saved actually to not just necessarily sit. We are actually saved to serve Him. And sometimes the most beautiful way that you serve Him is just like what it talks about in Matthew 26, when the disciples are going, but Jesus, when did we see you hungry? When did we see you thirsty? When did we see you naked and without clothing? When did we see you in prison? When did we see you hurting? And He said, whenever you did it, for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me. That's a beautiful thing about serving. We are saved to serve. Now let me make something very clear for you, okay? In case you've ever been taught this. You are not saved by your good works. Everybody say that. You're not saved by your good works. You can go out there and write a check to the homeless shelter and the Sisters of the Blind and say, I gave them $1,000, just bought my ticket to heaven. Ain't going to happen. I'm really sorry. I hate to burst your bubble. Not going to happen. We are not saved by our good works. But guess what? We are saved for good works to do for Him. We are saved for good works. We are saved to now do good works. We are now saved to serve. Everybody say, saved to serve. If you are a believer in Jesus today, if He has taken your sins from you and thrown them in the deepest, darkest ocean, what we talked about last week, if Jesus has come into your heart and mind, if He has saved you for eternity, if He has removed your sins as far as the east is from the west, if He has done that, then you are saved to serve. And so part of today is helping you remember that there are churches all over this world that just shackle their doors because they dwindle and dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. And I'm telling you right now, I know a bunch. I know a bunch in Oklahoma. And you want to know why? They haven't figured out how to be the church. They just go to church. And so we need to remember, sometimes we need a fresh perspective on how we are saved to serve. Go forward there, sir. So everybody, I don't know, some of y'all maybe have never seen the mission statement of Lake Eufaula Christian Church today. But if you haven't, this was basically a mission that was written, I think it was nearly 40 years ago. And so we might be addressing this one day, but for right now, I just want to show you what the mission statement says. It used to be printed on the back of every one of our bulletins, and since COVID, we stopped printing paper bulletins. But I wanted you to see, everybody say evangelize. Actually, the mission statement for this church is evangelize the lost. Everybody say edify. Edify, that means lift up, encourage, build up. Edify the saved. Everybody say minister. Minister to those in need. And everybody say be a conscience. You're called to evangelize the lost. You're called to edify the saved. You're called to minister to those in need. And you are called to be a conscience in our community. So first of all, think about yourself. Don't think corporately, think individually. How well are we doing those things? How well are we evangelizing the lost? You yourself, are you doing that? If we've had conversations with lots of people in here. I'm so scared to share the gospel. I'm so scared. I don't know what to say. Don't worry. Don't worry. Jesus' disciples didn't know how to do that either. But he taught them, didn't he? He trained them, didn't he? But whenever people experienced the drift for months, years, it's harder to get them to re-engage their faith. And so if we are going to evangelize the lost, we have to be ready to tell people about Jesus. There are some people in here that it doesn't matter it doesn't matter if they're at work, it doesn't matter if they're at the grocery store, it doesn't matter where they are going to talk to somebody about Jesus. And that is awesome. That's not all of us. That's a few of us. But we can be better at loving and caring for the people around us. We are called to edify the saved. So I think about, there are people in our congregation right now who have been sick and afflicted this past week. And whenever you talk with some of those people, they're like, yeah, I got called by 4 people. And they checked up on us. They saw how we were doing. What a blessing. I feel so loved. Is it better to be called by 1 person, or is it better to be called by 4 people that want to share their love, that want to ask you how you're doing? There's a difference in 1 and 4, isn't there? 1, it's all on 1 person. They're not doing a very good job of effectively being the church. 4 is learning how to be the church. You understand where I'm going with this? We're called to evangelize the lost. We're called to edify and build up our church members that are loved and saved. And we are to minister to those in need. Now, we've done some mission work here, local and global, but how well do we minister to those in need? How well are we meeting the needs of our church family and those outside of this building? How well are we doing that? How well are we being a conscience in our community? And what do I mean by that? Whenever you leave this place, do your thoughts, your actions, your speech, the things that you do, does it even point anybody toward you are a saved believer in Jesus Christ? Would people even know that you go to church? If not, you're probably not being a very good conscience in our community. And so individually, I wanted you to think about that first, because now let's talk about corporately. Corporately, how well are we evangelizing the lost? How well are we edifying the saved? How well are we ministering to those in need? How well are we being a conscience in our community? Do you see what I mean? There's a lot of churches that shackle their doors because they don't figure out how to be the church. They just, well, it's Sunday. Am I going to go to church today? And that's really sad because, guys, I don't know if y'all know this, but the church is basically 1 generation away from a family never being involved anymore. Basically 1 generation. Some parents go to church, some of them take their kids, some don't. The ones that usually don't go to church, they do not take their kids to church, usually. It's usually 1 generation, removed, done. That is scary. We need to be building disciples. We need to be evangelizing the lost, edifying the saved, ministering to those in need, being a conscience in our community, amen? That's what we're called to do. And if y'all don't like this mission statement, then we need to change it. But you need to know what it says. And if we know what it says, then we need to be able to do it, don't we? Because all these things are about pointing us to love God and love others better. And the last time I checked, those are still the greatest commandments of Jesus in the New Testament. So, how are we doing those things? Go forward there, sir. So, I wanted to show you a little quote today. This is William Temple. He was the Archbishop of Canterbury, which is a big word, a kind of a big regal title for. He was a priest in England, okay, in about the 1940s especially. I was the Archbishop of Canterbury. Yes. Well, I was eating my Cadbury eggs or drinking my spot of tea. All right, so anyway, he had this great quote, and he said, "The church is the only society in the world that exists for the benefit of its," what? Non-members. Well, that's an interesting thought process, because did Jesus want to just help the little close circle of people around him, or did he want to help all the people that are lost and sinful and afflicted and hurt and in pain? He wanted to help them all, didn't he? He knew that they wouldn't all come, but he wanted to help them, didn't he? That's where we have to remember exactly these types of words that are so great. We don't just exist to reside inside these walls. We also exist to be a light outside of these walls for all types of people that would come to know that we are Jesus followers. Go forward there, sir. And so I wanted to kind of give you an example. Everybody say teamwork. Teamwork is awesome. Now, this is a picture of our youth leaders at one of their meetings, and this is pre-Eli and Hannah being part of that team, and Wesley. And so this is just a group of our young 20-somethings that love Jesus. And you know, whenever I stepped into this position here as a lead pastor, I sat down with my mom, and my mom was like, "Okay, we need a youth minister." And I'm saying, we need a team. We need a team. We don't need it on one. We need a team. Very specifically, I'm not backing down. We need a team. And this team has done amazing things, and two of them are sitting right here next to me. They do a great job of leading our youth. That is actually what we're called to do, because we're not just called to serve. Everybody say, we are called to serve, as part of a team. We are called to serve as part of a team. And so teamwork makes the dream work. This is the way I was thinking about this acronym the other day. Together, enjoying a ministry, worshiping our righteous King. Together, enjoying a ministry, worshiping our righteous King. That's what this group does. They love it. Anybody that was here on Wednesday night and saw those kids having an amazing time and watching these kids playing with them, oh my gosh. Together, enjoying a ministry, worshiping our righteous King. Teamwork makes that dream work, doesn't it? We are not called to be lone rangers. We are not called to be an island. We're not called to fly solo. We're called to be in a family. You are part of a family if you've accepted Jesus. If you have come to know who Jesus is, you have made him your Lord and Savior, you are an adopted son or daughter. Even if you are an only child, guess what? You're not an only child in the Christian church. You're not. You're adopted as an adopted son or daughter of the Most High King's family. What a beautiful thing. Teamwork makes that dream work. And so I wanted to show you that this morning, that it's such a blessing for these young ones that absolutely understand this. Now, when Kim and I moved here in 2005, you know, I started getting on the board of directors. They asked me to be on the board of directors out at the Under One Roof Center here in town that does some great work for our community. And they asked me to be on the board and asked me to kind of watch over some of the facility needs, the things that the facility needed. And it needed a lot. And so that was my first experience really being on the board. And if you've ever been on a school board or a nonprofit agency, or you've ever been on the board of a you know, some sort of directing a position, well, if you've ever done that, you probably know the difference between sit on a board and serve on a board, don't you? There's a very big difference. So like, for instance, right now, I'm on the board of directors for God's Helping Hands. It's one of our missions. Every single month, we give money to God's Helping Hands. God's Helping Hands helps needy people all over this county. They do a great job. And so whenever I think about that, I think about our money is going to help a mission that is serving people. And even in this church, we've had members of this church who have gone and served hands and feet of Jesus in this specific place. They've helped with the clothes closet. They've helped with the food pantry. We've done friendship kitchen. Teamwork makes the dream work. We're not meant to do it alone. We're meant to do it as a family. And so when I remember, you will never hear me say, I sit on the board of God's Helping Hands. You will hear me say, I serve on the board of God's Helping Hands because I know the difference between the two. And that is what we're called to do. We're called to serve as part of a team. Teamwork. Go ahead, sir. So I want to show you here that Jesus seldom did ministry by himself. And you might be thinking, hey, Jeremy, I really didn't come to church today for a motivational speaker. I didn't come to church for that. I came to hear the word. Well, guess what? We're going to talk about the word, I promise you. Think about this. Jesus seldom did ministry by himself. He ministered with his disciples right nearby. He usually had 3, Peter, James, and John, that were almost always with him. And they constantly had his closest followers near him so that he could show them what he was doing. Not just tell them, he could show them. Not just in a classroom where we're taking notes, but in a classroom of experience, actually doing. Not just saying, but actually doing. In the sense that, now picture this, did Jesus need our help to accomplish his mission? Jesus was all-powerful, still is. Jesus didn't need our help to do anything. Jesus could have come to this earth and absolutely wiped out evil and done everything himself. But did he choose to do that? No. He specifically did something amazing. He set up teams. He got himself a team of 12. And not only did he send out the 12, if you read a little bit further, he actually sent out 72 more. He knew that he didn't need a ministry team, but he still built one anyway. He wanted a ministry team because that's how you have sustainability. That's how you don't shackle a door. That's how it doesn't just fall on one person. And then we go into that business, and the business, can somebody help me with this? Not my job. And then we look around and we say, you know what? Somebody needs to do something. Why doesn't somebody do something? Somebody needs to do something. Why doesn't somebody do something? What's that Matthew West song, Sonny? You know what I'm talking about? Why doesn't somebody do something? Jesus said, I did. I created you. You're saved to serve. You're not just saved to sit. You're saved to serve. You're saved to do something because that's the way Jesus' biblical example was for you too. So I wanted to think about that for Re-engaging Sunday. Jesus set up teams and Jesus ministered as a group of people to bring you along, to make disciples, to help you understand how to do the work of the kingdom. Because whenever we just float in and we float out, you know what we do? We drift. And what I'm asking you to do today is I'm asking you to resist the urge to drift. I'm asking you to be more intentional. Resist the urge to drift, because when you drift for weeks, a lot of times it turns into months. And when you drift for months, then a lot of times it turns into years. And I know a lot of people that have not been back to church in years, and they haven't engaged their faith. And because they haven't engaged their faith, their family also hasn't engaged their faith. And we are called to evangelize the lost, edify the saved, minister to those in need, and be a conscience in our community. How do we do that if we don't engage? You understand what I'm telling you to do today? We got to engage. We got to re-engage. When COVID hit, it absolutely kicked our ministry team idea in the teeth. Absolutely kicked it in the teeth. Last February, we started to set up on paper missionary ministry teams. Ministry teams that could make us better at helping love each other and love God. Not just being flying solo, not just being on one person, but a team that does amazing work together, loving each other, caring for each other, helping each other, edifying each other. Jesus didn't need a ministry team, but he set them up anyway so that he could build his mission before he returned to the one who sent him. Go forward, sir. And so if we were looking in Mark, this is Mark chapter 6. I didn't put it up here on the screen. I'll just read it for you real quick. Mark chapter 6, verses 5 and 6. Jesus went around teaching from village to village. Calling the 12 to him, he began to send them out 2 by 2. He began to send them out 2 by 2. And he gave them authority over impure spirits. And so Jesus, he said, don't worry about anything. Go and prepare my people. Go and help my people. Go and prepare the way for me. We are called to serve as part of a team. That's what we're called to do. Let me show you why. In Ecclesiastes, it says this. 2 are better than 1, right? Because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can do what? One can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. A cord of how many strands? Does it say a cord of 1 strand? Does it say a cord of flying solo? A cord of being an island by yourself? No. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. How often do we have crazy things that happen in our lives, and when we don't have a foundation in a church family that loves us, cares about us, builds us up, and edifies us, it feels like our world is going to be quickly broken. But a church family helps us understand God's word. Let me also show you this. In Ephesians chapter 4, he did something else. He starts to talk about something beautiful, which you have a paper right there next to you that talks about spiritual gifts. So, everybody repeat this with me. We are called to serve, as part of a team, using your spiritual gift. That's what you're called to do. Christ himself gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors, the teachers to equip his people for works of service so that the body of Christ may be what? Built up. I don't want that church building shackled. I don't want it to be on one person. I want this church to be the church. I don't want them to just go to church. I want them to be it. Until we reach what? Unity in the faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God and become what? Mature, not drifting, not being immature in the faith. Being rock solid, foundational. That's what the Christians in Afghanistan are going to die for this week. Because they're mature in their faith. They're resisting the urge to drift. They're resisting the urge to just be a Christian on paper. They're stepping up and they're being the church. We are called to become mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. Go ahead. Next verse there, sir. Then we will no longer what? Be infants. When the world is crazy all around us and sin and temptation is beating all around us and we've resisted the urge to drift, we will not be this. We will not be like infants tossed back and forth by the waves, blown here and there by every wind of teaching and everything by the cunning and craftiness of people in their deceitful scheming. Instead, a family does something amazing. An army does something amazing. An army for the Lord does something amazing. They speak the truth in love. They grow. They grow. They grow. They don't just drift. They grow to become the full measure, to become in every respect. There's that word again. What is that word? The mature body of Him who is the head, that is Christ. From Him, He is the head. We are the whole body, joined and held together by Him, by every supporting ligament, who is growing and building itself up in love. What's the last part of that verse say? As each part does its work. Not supposed to be one person. We're called to be a team. Do you love serving on your team? Every week whenever we're on text, are we not encouraging and just saying, man, I just love this. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. That's a team. That's a ministry team. That's the way Jesus wanted us to do it. You are called to serve as part of a family, using your spiritual gift. And so whenever we're sitting there saying, I don't know what a spiritual gift is, I don't really know what that means, that's what those sheets are there in the pews for you to look at. Go forward there, Ethan. And Peter actually said this in 1 Peter. He said, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to what? Serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. See, whenever we've talked in the past, sometimes when this church was 12 or 13 people, and it's like, hey, do you think you'd get the prayer tonight? I don't pray. I can't do that. Okay. Do you think you could read a verse? I don't read in front of people. Okay. Do you think you could go fix communion? I don't fix communion. I don't serve. Okay. We missed something. We missed something along the way. We really missed the boat big time, because this verse specifically tells you that God gives you a specific spiritual gift. Some have many. Some have one. But each of us have at least one, if you're a believer in Christ. Each of us has a spiritual gift, and you're called to use it to serve others. That's what a mature Christian understands about what he's being called to do. That's what's so cool. Go ahead there, Michaelan. Thank you, ma'am. So I wanted to introduce this to you today. Some of you, whenever we did this about a year ago, we were talking about ministry teams, how to be better about not just loving God, but how to be better about loving each other. And we started to talk about spiritual gifts. And of course, there's plenty of biblical verses that talk about spiritual gifts. And if you don't know that you have a spiritual gift, I want to invite you right now or after church today to take that spiritual gifts test home, fill that out, and have the accompanying sheet with you that shows you different types of spiritual gifts that are specifically listed in the Word. Because if we are going to be an effective body of believers that care about each other, that not just love God, but love others, these are opportunities for you. These are what we're called to possibly be a part of. So if you've never taken a spiritual gifts test, then I want to ask you to do that. I absolutely want you to see that. We have kids ministry. We have our student ministry. We got our care ministry, prayer ministry, welcome and hospitality, security and grounds, kitchen ministry, worship ministry, tech team and outreach. And guys, some of you, I know we've talked about these kinds of things before. Some of us were going, yeah, Jeremy, I can't get up on stage. I can't preach. I can't pray. God didn't give me that ability. That's okay. Not every servant is called to be on stage. Not every servant is given this ability to be able to stand on stage and talk and feel comfortable praying in front of people. Not every servant is asked to do that. But you are asked to use whatever gift you have been given to serve others, building each other up in the body of Christ. And so whenever you don't realize that these things are actually available, I remember there were a couple people, whenever we did this back in February 1st, 2020, there were a couple people like, Jeremy, we got just a really small church. We're just a little tiny church. We're just a little tiny church. I don't know why we need ministry teams. And I say, have you ever watched Field of Dreams? The baseball field in the middle of the cornfield in Iowa? What is the most famous quote that he hears audibly in his ear? If you build it, he will come. If you build it, he will come. Well, I'm telling you right now that I was in church here for a long time. And I don't really feel like that God had called us all to love each other and help each other and love Him the maybe way that we could. So that's what we're coming back to today with Re-engage. We want to make sure that we are really doing a good job for anybody who steps out of their car in the parking lot to come in here, for anybody who is sick and afflicted in this church body, for anybody who needs help if they're nervous but they come into this church anyway. Do they feel loved? Do they feel encouraged? Are they invited back? If somebody brings a baby, do we have somebody that can help with that baby? Are there things that we can do besides just saying, not my job? Somebody needs to do something, but not my job. That's not what you're called to do. You're not called to sit. You're not called to be a lone ranger. You're not called to drift. You're called to be something different. You're called to be a part of a team. You're called to serve as part of a team using your spiritual gift. So here's your opportunities. Really quickly, I just want to show you. We have some sign-up sheets at the back today. Whenever we finish up our sermon today, I want you to take the opportunity to go back and look at that. Okay? I want you to take those spiritual gifts tests home. I want you to take the accompanying sheet home so you can read and see how God has uniquely gifted you, because there are ways that do not have anything to do with this stage at all. There are ways to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to be part of a team that is very biblically sound, exactly the way the Word has called us to be. So let's bring this up. Kids ministry. Your leaders on that team are Miss Christy Helms, Miss Kim Little, and Miss Julie Huff. If you want to talk about, if you love little children, you know, I would love to think that everybody loves my little daughter the same way I do. That's not the case. But, you know, I'd love to think that. She's 5 and she's so cute. But, you know, we need helpers with that, right? And the cool part about it is you're not called to do this on your own. Anybody ever had a really cool, you know, been in a class where there was kind of an assistant, a teacher's aide? There you go. Maybe that's what you're called to be. If that ministry, you know, if that ministry call is being placed on your heart to help our little children grow and be a part of something amazing, that's what you're called to be. Spiritual gifts can include teaching and knowledge and wisdom. And it's just a great way. So if you want to sign up on that, that's the kids ministry team. Go forward there, sir. Our Awakened Student Ministry, that's our young 20-somethings a lot of the times that do a really good job. 7th through the 12th grade kids do an amazing job being part of a rotation, helping each other, building things together. Bo, Matt, Jesse, Kinley, Eli, and Hannah do an awesome job. If that's you, if you want to get more involved in that, please sign up for the Awakened Student Ministry team. Go forward. Care ministry. What did I say earlier? Is it better to get called by one person or 4 people and say that they love you and they care about you and they're praying for you and they want to help you in any way? 1 or 4? 4. Care ministry team. Okay? Ministry team in reach. Calls, visitation, being amazing. You know, that's what this is all about. We called 7 people after we took her to school for her first day of school. We called 7 people, and we were going to go visit 3, and 2 of them were out at doctor's appointments, so we couldn't go do that. So we went and visited 1, right? But 1 visit, 7 calls, and people instantly feel loved. What if there were 4 people calling instead of 1? And here's the thing, I know there are. I know there are others who are, and that's a beautiful thing. That's part of a ministry team, care ministry. All right, go forward there, sir. That's Kim Little, that's Julie Huff, that's, Gail Rodebush. Yeah, Miss Gail Rodebush is also on there. Prayer ministry team. This ministry team ensures that prayer is the center of everything. Misty Walker and Miss Beth Little, they are the leaders of that ministry team, and they do a great job. And whenever this was a really, really strong team whenever we first started it, but then once again, COVID did what? It kicked it in the head. And so now it's time to re-engage. All right, so if that's something that you want to help with, be a part of our prayer ministry team. It doesn't mean you have to get up in front of everybody and pray, but if you can't do anything except for sit for a little bit, guess what? You can pray. If you're called as a Christian, you can pray. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's go forward here to the next team. Welcome and hospitality ministry. This ministry is made up of our greeters. Raise your hand if you're a greeter in here today. Raise your hand. Do we love our greeters and our people at the front door? Do we love them? They do a great job, don't they? They do a great job. They make people feel welcomed. What a blessing. What a blessing. And so these are the folks who are going to help make your experience from the first impression be amazing. If you want to be in on that team, talk to Clint Walker. Talk to Ed Rodebush. Our next team is the tech ministry team, I believe. Ethan, if you'll bring that up for me. Oh, nope, security and grounds. Very good. That's why I have Ethan do that, okay? Security and grounds. So, guys, you know, there have been multiple churches in our area that have been broken into and had thousands of dollars worth of things ripped off from them. It helps to have an alarm, but does it also help to have loving people who maybe don't necessarily feel comfortable on stage, maybe don't necessarily get up and teach, but man, they feel like the watcher on the wall, the sheepdog who helps protect this flock from all kinds of things that can happen. They don't mind checking those exterior doors. They don't mind making sure that if they have to de-escalate a situation that's happening outside, they're ready to do that. That is a beautiful thing to be able to help us worship in peace. Amen? Security and grounds team, Ed Rodebush, Jeremy Huffman. Talk to them. Go forward there, sir. That's okay. There we go. Kitchen ministry. All right, so we just had our first fellowship meal for the first time in a long time. That was good, wasn't it? Everybody, did you have a good time at that kitchen meal? Oh my gosh, it was awesome. Loved it. It was great. It was a beautiful thing. Now, here's the thing. We used to do them every month. We're not going to do them every month. We might do them quarterly, but we know for a fact we're going to do them at least semi-annually or on our big holidays. So if you're called to be part of that kitchen ministry team, that is something that is an amazing, amazing way to help. So if you took a spiritual gifts test and you're thinking, I can't teach, I can't really get up and pray in front of people, I can't do this, but I'm really high in service and I'm really high in helps, then maybe this is a team for you. If you feel called to help be those hands and feet of Jesus, to do that, talk to Miss Dee McDonald or talk to Miss Gail Rodebush and sign up for that team. Next team, sir, as we're wrapping up here today, worship ministry team. Miss Julie does a great job of leading our worship team and does a great job. Miss Rita is gone today. She is the other big person on that. And so it's awesome to see how worship has gone from one person to about 15 people to 20 people. And whenever you all get people up here, there's sometimes 15, 20 people. It's just awesome. That is people actually being the church and doing the things that God has called them to do by using their gifts. And the next team is the tech ministry team. Very good. So we got all of our people back there today that are under the age of 17, and that's just amazing to me. Just floors me. It's so cool. And so our tech ministry team, these are the folks that do such great things to make our church get thousands of views on social media and get our message out there so that it's not just the sweet little folks that we gather together every week that are hearing the message or listening to the music or hearing the prayers. It's thousands of people that get to watch this and get to see this and get to hopefully be moved by God's word to do it. And so that is rounding out our ministry teams. The last one today, if you want to talk to Sierra about the tech ministry team, you can do that. Our last ministry team today is the one that we never really got quite off the ground. We'd had about 2 or 3 planning meetings, and then COVID just knocked it out. But God is showing us over and over and over again that it's time to re-engage our outreach ministry, to be able to do things and go help the least of these outside the walls. And some of you are really, really, really gifted in that in an amazing way. And so there are different opportunities that I wanted you to know about to be able to help in so many different aspects. And so as we talk about this, as we think about this, I want you to take that spiritual gifts assessment. I want you to see how that lines up with how God has naturally gifted you. Because every one of you has a spiritual gift. And even if you don't feel like you can be active, even if you don't feel like you can step out and really do this, you can sit in your home and you can do it. You can sit in your home and you can do this. If anything has taught us anything from COVID-19, it's that God's church is not going to stop because of a virus. It's not going to stop. Our little Christian church pivoted and went online. The global church pivoted and went online. The global church figured out that they had to harness some technology to be able to still support and love their people. We are called to still do that today. So no matter what happens in the world, in the next 6 months, in the next year, are we being an army for the Lord? Are we still advancing the cause for Christ? Are we still realizing that we are called to serve as part of a family using our spiritual gift? That's what we're called to do today. So I'm asking you to re-engage. And it's not just from a motivational speaker standpoint. This is very biblical and you're called to do it. And so however God pulls you, tells you to be able to do this, resist the drift. Engage. With me personally, you've heard this story before. This guy sitting right here in the blue shirt had to literally say, he had to deflect all of my excuses, just like a lightsaber. Bing, bing, bing. Jerry, we need you to lead singing. I was 25. Started leading singing in the Church of Christ when I was 11. When I went to college, kind of morphed into more of a Christian band. We traveled and played some different places. But I didn't really stay just worship, just leading, singing a cappella or anything like that every week. Start coming down here. And man, I'm loving the idea of drifting. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know what it's like to have excuses. Ask me how I know what it's like to just drift. Ask me how I know. Because I did it for years. And it took this guy right here who wanted to make sure that he was edifying the saved, building me up, encouraging me, being a conscience, to get me back on what the Lord's path was for me to do. And I had every excuse in the book. We didn't have a daughter yet. Working 40 plus hours a week and other things we were involved in. I don't have time. Bart, I don't have time. Bart, I don't have time. Bart, I can't do that. Bart, you got to get somebody else. Get someone else. Get someone else. Get someone else. Jer, there is no one else. Nobody else knows how to do what you have already been doing since you were 11. Nobody knows how to do what you already know how to do, how you've already been gifted or blessed to do it. Nobody knows how to do it. Excuse, excuse, excuse. And then finally, I relented. And I took a deep breath and I said, okay, God, yes, I will. And maybe that's what you need to say today. Maybe you don't just need to engage with your Heavenly Father. Maybe you don't just need to engage in your church. Maybe you need to say, okay, God, yes, I will. I can't imagine if I would have said no. I wouldn't have led singing for 12 years. I wouldn't have been in youth ministry for 8 years. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have watched a church grow from 12 people to 90 plus on a Sunday. I wouldn't be here. And I hope you know this. This is not about one person. This is because you all have figured out how to be the church. Not just go to church, but be the church. I had to learn that too. I had to learn that God was prompting, that the Holy Spirit was prompting and prompting again to nudge me, to kick me out of my nest a little bit so that I would fly a little bit for Him, so that I would fly a little bit for Him. When it came time for youth ministry, here came the questions. Has God ever called you to do this? Yeah, but I don't have time. Excuse, excuse, excuse. I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. Then I prayed about it. God said, I got you. You need to do that. I got you. Same way here. I was the first one that went to the board and said, get somebody else. I don't want to be the lead pastor. Interview about 6 or 8 people. Bring them all in. I don't care. I don't want to do it. I'm comfortable where I'm at. I've got a regular job I'm really good at. I can do the youth. I can do the bivocational thing. I ask somebody to do it. Then I prayed about it. And about a month later, I finally said, okay. So how is God prompting you today to be called to serve as part of a team using your spiritual gift? Because if we constantly stay stuck on, I can't and I won't, that's not my job, get somebody else, why won't somebody do something? Churches get shackled, you don't grow, and churches fail, and the lost don't get saved, and people don't feel loved. But when you re-engage, God does amazing things. Jesus came to seek and save the lost, and you were that lost at one time, weren't you? Now we're called to be something else. So I'm asking you to re-engage today. I'm asking you to think about what God is putting on your heart to do to make this church better at loving Him and loving others. Let's bow our heads together. Dear Heavenly Father, I just come before you today, and Lord, I'm so thankful for this church. There are so many people that we've talked to in the last year who have stepped out of their comfort zone, listening to the prompting of the Holy Spirit feeling that gentle nudge from the Holy Spirit to kind of get kicked out of their nest just a little bit, to be part of a team, not to fly solo, but to be part of an amazing team. Lord, I don't know what you have in store for this church, but I know this. I know that we need to have bold faith. I know that we need to be ready at a moment's drop to be able to be your hands and feet. And I know that you have called us to evangelize the lost, edify the saved, minister to those in need, and be a conscience in our community. And Father, if we don't love you and we don't love others very well, we're never going to be efficient at that. So Lord, I'm asking us today to just think about how you have prompted us, how you have gently nudged us to be more in your kingdom. Father, we know we're not saved by our good works. We know we're not saved by by all those things that we do. We know we're not saved by that. We're saved for that. We're saved to go do that out of joy, because it's an amazing feeling to be saved, to be loved, to be encouraged, to have a family, to be part of a fighting force. Lord, I want to pray today for all of our missionaries and all of our people all across the world, Afghanistan, Haiti, China, the different parts of the world where it's not easy to wake up on a Sunday morning and have freedom to go do what you want to do, to decide whether or not to worship because of fear, because of torture. Lord, I want to thank you for those blessed souls that are continuing to push your agenda forward, to be able to spread your message. Father, I thank you for them. And I pray, Lord, that if it be your will to serve a miracle on these people, protect them, keep them safe, Lord, I know you can do it. I know that you can do it. And Lord, if it is your will for our loving missionaries around the world to be exactly like your disciples were 2,000 years ago, Lord, I know the crowns, the jewels in their crown are going to be so great for how they worked for you, how they served others for you. Lord, I want to pray for this church, and I want to pray for it to be exactly what you want it to be. If you want it to grow, Father, I pray that you allow it in your people to be the church and grow. And Father, if you want us to be exactly this many, then I pray that we are a strong this many, a strong group, a strong family that has no chinks in the armor, that feels so loved and encouraged, that we are built up in your faith, that we are unified in your strength, and that we can be what you've called us to be. And Lord, I thank you for that. And I praise you. And I give you all the glory. And Lord, we are so thankful for Jesus who came to save us. And I pray that we will take that message forward for the rest of our days that you have gifted us here. And we love you and we thank you. And all God's people said, amen, amen. Let's stand up on those. Let's rise up, please. Okay, no problem.